There's a bunch of crazy stories written by the Brothers Grimm. And now you're gonna learn all about them, listening to the Brothers Grimm.
Students and scholars, friends and relations, welcome to the Brothers Grimm podcast, where we have a chat about the collection of fairy tales written down by the Brothers Grimm in the early 1800s in Germany, including this 55th story in the collection, Rumpelstiltskin. My name is Phil.
And my name is Mike.
Names are important, Mike.
That they are.
They're very important. And this name I've known for quite some time, Rumpelstiltskin. Your name I've known for a long time, too.
That's true.
I remember when I first learned your name, I think it was 1997.
Yep.
But Rumpelstiltskin, I feel like I have known that name my whole life. I don't ever remember first hearing this story and being like, that's interesting. I just always remember knowing the name Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, it's just part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you have a grade for this one?
I went back and forth. I settled on an A. I like the telling of this one, but I didn't quite put it at top tier.
Yeah. I was thinking high B, low A, somewhere in the middle there as well.
That's fair.
Just because there's not a lot to it. It's so funny that this really has stood the test of time, and I think we'll get into maybe why later. But maybe just because they actually name Rumpelstiltskin in it, and so then you have an actual antagonist,
right? Yeah,
and
the hero wins.
Yeah, through some amount of cleverness.
Yeah, one thing I liked was the way they just kind of portrayed the delight that she has at besting him. Even screwing with him a little bit first.
No, that was solid.
There's a nice gruesome ending too. So
that's true, and that was a weird ending. But you know what? Yeah. We will get into it. So without further ado, I will take us through the plot of story number 55, Rumpelstiltskin.
Please do.
Once upon a time, there was a poor miller with a hot daughter. And one day, the miller has to go to the king for some reason, and in order to impress the king, he casually mentions that his daughter knows how to spin straw into gold. And the king says, cool. Well, I have an idea then. You bring her over to the castle. That's my idea. I'm going to have her do that. So the miller does. And the king sticks the girl in a room full of straw and says, all righty, girlie, get to work. Turn all this straw into gold. And if you can't do that by morning, I'm going to kill you. So have fun. The girl, for her part, has no idea how to do this. Her dad was just lying. So as the night goes on, she gets more and more miserable and starts crying until it's almost morning. The tiny man opens the door and asks her why she's crying. She explains, and he says, if you just need to turn this into gold, I can do that. I know how to spin straw into gold. But what'll you give me? So she says, how about this necklace? And he says, yeah, done. So he spins everything into gold. King pops up in the morning and is quite pleased. He sticks her in another bigger room with even more straw. Little guy comes in again. This time she gives up her ring, and again he spins everything into gold. King sees this, gets super greedy, puts her into an even bigger room. This time, though, the little guy comes back, and she's got nothing to give him. So he says, tell you what, I'll do this pro bono, but you have to promise that if you ever become queen, you will give me your firstborn child. Girl says, okay, I'm probably not going to be queen anyway, so sure. Little man gets to work. Then come morning, the king is so impressed. He says, you know what? No more spinning straw into gold for you. You are now my wife. We've got enough gold. We're good. Year later, here comes the firstborn, and here comes the little man, and says, okay, you became queen. This is your firstborn child. We had a deal. Please give me that baby. Queen is horrified. Says, no, I don't want to do that. Here's any treasure in the kingdom, but that won't do. He only wants that baby. But he says, if you can figure out my name within 3 days, I'll just go and you can keep your precious child. So she starts wondering about what his name could be and has some good guesses. The first day she guesses Casper, Melchior, and Balthazar, along with whatever other names she can remember to start. None of them is this little man's name. So she sends out a servant to go find some new and different names. And on the second day, she comes up with a bunch of silly ones, short ribs, sheep shanks, and leg lace. But none of them are his name either.
Short ribs is my favorite.
Short ribs is really good, yeah. Finally, her servant comes back on the last day, says, I didn't find any new names, my liege, but I did see that guy dancing around outside his house, and he was shouting a little song. So he said, today I bake, tomorrow brew, the next I'll have the queen's child. Ha! Glad I am that no one knew that Rumpelstiltskin I am styled. Now she knows the name, and he comes back. And just to screw with him, she makes a few guesses to start. She goes, "Oh, is it Conrad?" And he's like, "No." And she said, "How about Harry?" And he said, "Haha, no." And she's like, "Oh, yeah? Well, how about Rumpelstiltskin?" Totally surprises him. He says, "Oh, the devil told you that. The devil told you that." And then he gets so angry that he kicks the ground with enough force that his leg gets stuck. And when he tries to pull it out, he rips himself in twain. The end. I think I said earlier, I always wondered about the name, because for all that doesn't really happen in this story, I have known that name for as long as I can remember. But I liked too that the German name, which first of all isn't Rumpelstiltskin, but it's close, it's Rumpelstiltskin or something, translates roughly back to like rattle ghost. So just kind of a mischievous spirit.
Yeah, little Rattlestilt. So there's a, Rumpelstilt is a type of goblin that makes noises by rattling posts. And then you get the shun or kin in English being a diminutive. So little rattling goblin.
Just a just a goblin that likes to rattle shit.
When I was a kid, I always thought it had something to do with a butt.
Rump. No, it meant, rumble, I guess, or something. Or maybe rumble comes from the German word for rumple. I'm not an entomologist. Is it entomologist? Etymologist. I'm not an etymologist.
Yeah, and in looking into this, I discovered also the root of poltergeist. Geist is ghost, and polter is rumble. So rumblegeist or poltergeist. I can't remember what polter comes from, but
so something that makes noise.
Yeah.
Name aside, which I do think is important to name your antagonist so people can remember instead of just like these nameless people that are in the rest of the stories. There's spinning straw into gold. This seems to be the originator of, as far as I can tell, Rumpelstiltskin is where that idea came from. Not that there wasn't 2,000 years of people trying to turn things into gold, but specifically sewing it into gold, which seems a very German way to go about alchemy. It's just spinning.
Is that or you find it in a tree that you cut down?
Or in a mountain somewhere. But that's one of them. And then the power of names is kind of one we can get into a little bit. Also, giving up a child we've seen a million times. I think starting with the very first story, you could argue with the Princess and the Frog, but in a much more literal sense with Rapunzel.
Yeah, she kind of gave herself away, but yeah.
And then
Rapunzel was giving away the unborn child. The girl without hands. I don't know if you remember that one. It was
yes.
There was a miller who made a deal with the devil for whatever was in his backyard. He was like, "Oh, it's just the apple tree
out behind the shed."
Yeah, and then he gets home and finds out that actually his daughter was out sweeping, so she's gone.
Whoopsie daisy.
Whoops.
Do you have a moral?
It was iffy. Don't get tricked into promises. I mean, that's her lesson. I think the moral for him is you got greedy. He's mischievous. Don't be mischievous. I don't know. I'm assuming you've got something better than that.
I mean, I don't know if it's better. I have something different. Don't go bragging to the king about shit, especially if that shit ain't true.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's like, I don't tell my boss that. I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I know how to program in C," and then he'd be like, "Oh, well, can you do it?" I'd be like,
No. I mean, do it now, or I will kill you.
Yeah, you have one day to get a video game up and running, all programmed in C.
What the fuck was that? He's like, "Oh yeah, no." The king's like, "Oh yeah, no, that sounds pretty cool. Why don't you bring her by?"
And then he does, knowing that she can't do it.
Yep. He's like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll put this on her then."
Yeah.
And then to top it off, the king's like, "Yeah, no, go ahead. All right, you know what? You could do it by morning. If you haven't, then I'm just going to murder you.
I'm going to murder you because of a promise that your dad made."
Not that I even need gold because I'm a king.
Yeah, we'll find out if your dad's a liar or not.
What else is interesting is he has her do it the 3 times and then he agrees to marry her. And then presumably he doesn't need her to do it again. It was just the 3.
Once you get,
I would assume he's marrying her because she can just keep making gold.
Well, though maybe she'll say, "Well, now that I'm the queen, I'm not going to spin anymore."
No, that's true. Yeah.
One of the reasons why this, you know what, I will put this as a B. There's things that just get dropped. The dad is never heard from again,
which is a shame because he was a dick.
There's just 1 or 2 really strong concepts in this, but that's it. Tying everything together is kind of funky.
As an aside, for the second guess, she sends the servant out into the village to poll for names, and he comes back with short ribs, sheep shanks, and lace leg.
He didn't go
What
anywhere.
what the fuck kind of village is this?
He didn't go out there. He went to his room and he's just like, I don't feel like going. It's raining. I'll just make some shit up. I could come up with names, and then that's the best he could do. It was as interested in the idea of promising the firstborn child of the king up to Rumpelstiltskin as kind of as an allegory for promising your kid off before they're even born to like secure an alliance with another country. I mean, they did at the time.
Yeah.
In this case, you got a king who needs money. Here comes Rumpelstiltskin, who has money. He says, okay, I'll give you the money, but let us join our houses together. And that way my kid will eventually be king. And the king agrees to that. But once he has the money, betrayal.
What do you think he wants with the kid? Is it just to stick it to the queen, or does he actually have a desire for a child?
I think he wants the firstborn child of the king because that kid's going to inherit the kingdom. Whatever he was doing running, first of all, he can make whatever gold he wants. Whatever he was doing running around that castle constantly, who knows? Oh, I might be talking myself into ranking this a C.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he wants, the firstborn of the king is a very valuable commodity.
Right. And he did say, if you become queen, then I want your firstborn.
Yeah.
It was definitely the condition there.
If you're just some schmo that's living with your poor ass Miller dad, I don't care about your kid.
So he doesn't want to eat it.
I don't think so. No, I don't think he's not using the baby it's an extract of baby that makes beer super hoppy.
Sweeten the pot, as it were.
Yeah. ATU type 500, guessing the name of the magical helper. We haven't exactly seen this, but guessing the name of a magical creature giving you power over them. That, I don't think we've seen that in Grimm, but that idea has been around forever.
Yeah.
I remember in Homer's Odyssey, I had to look up the Cyclops' name, but there was a Cyclops, Polyphemus, who goes back and forth with Odysseus. And then to start, Odysseus doesn't tell him his name, but later on, after he blinds the Cyclops, he lets it slip, which allows Polyphemus to call his dad Poseidon and let loose the power of the sea on his ass for more or less the rest of the poem. This might not be real either, but I remember there was the idea of not being able to say, you weren't supposed to say the word Jehovah.
Really?
I might be thinking that due to Monty Python's film Life of Brian, where they stone to death anyone who says Jehovah. Though I read someone said there's some sects of Judaism which interpreted the thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain commandment as thou shan't say his name in any context just to be sure. And I was thinking about this too, that even to this day, there's still kind of a lot of power you can have over someone by learning their name. If you look at people who stream video games, which seems like it should be innocuous as hell, but if someone finds out their name and wants to be a troll, they could dox them, they could swat them, they could steal all their identity, all this bad shit. Or the J6 rioters, right? Government can't do much in the way of finding you until they learn your name. But once they have that, you're entering a world of hurt. You suddenly they have that much power.
It's funny. I've never really bought into that whole power of a name thing, but that's a really interesting tie to sort of current events and the power of a name as far as anonymity on the internet goes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, if you can find out your actual name, and I know we are fairly careful. Certainly I don't talk about my kid's name on this podcast. Right. Try not to say our last names. I'm pretty sure we've cut it out every time. Do you have any other notes?
Yeah, a few things. The king lives happily ever after, so thank God.
Yeah.
Although he didn't really know any of this. I love the ending. Just much more gruesome than we had. I don't even know what the typical accepted ending is. I think it's just him being mad and stamping his foot.
Stamping his foot so hard he blows up. Just gory split in half.
Right. I think you had mentioned how old this is. There's actually a reference by Dionysius of Halicarnassus, of the mausoleum of Halicarnassus fame, which is one of the original Seven Wonders of the world. I only know it because I have a board game called Seven Wonders that I love to play, which you will learn the Seven Wonders pretty quickly if you play that.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, no, that's ancient Greek, a reference to a very similar or identical story. I mean, there's a lot of other versions too. In England, he's Tom Tit Tot. Okay. In Scotland, he's Whoopity Stoorie, which is the best. I want to read Whoopity Stoorie. One thing that caught my eye was the little song he sings that he gets overheard, and that's his downfall. It's In our version, it's today I bake, tomorrow brew, the next I'll have the young queen's child. Ha! I'm glad that no one knew that Rumpelstiltskin am I styled, which I thought was a clever little rhyme. It's not a perfect ABAB. And it's, as usual, it got me thinking about the translation and the job of the translator to try to work lyricality and rhyme.
Yeah.
I saw another one that was tonight, my plans I make, tomorrow, the baby I take. The queen will never win the game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name.
Sounds
So I mean,
too.
it's clearly it's definitely up to the translator, and it's got to be a challenge to sort of do lyrical things like that. I'm guessing there's a dozen different versions at least, but you got to make it lyrical. I mean, if a direct translation isn't going to work
Right.
in another language, typically.
If you want, if you would like a rhyme.
Yeah. I think that's about all I had. Now that we've gone through all that, I mean, I started with an A, you started with a B, and kind of talked yourself into a C. Where do you feel like we landed? I think I could be talked down a bit, definitely.
Do you want to? Well, let's meet in the middle then. How about we'll call it a B?
Call it a B.
We'll average out the grades.
That sounds good.
I have a pitch.
Ooh, yeah. What do you got?
Okay, a movie, a psychological thriller.
Ooh.
There's a girl who does, if not OnlyFans, something like OnlyFans, right? And one guy in particular keeps offering her tips and coins, or however it works over there. But she does it when she's young. She's 18 and she's broke. She put herself through school, but she graduates. She gets a real job. She stops doing the little peep shows. So one guy though never stopped loving her and obsessing over her. He feels he's owed more from her, considering all the money he's paid to her over the years. Basically paid for her college. How dare you just disappear? So by poring over every video she's ever had and finding whatever clues he can, weather patterns on certain days, TV show in the background with local news, her just little things she references, the way she says certain things. After enough time, he finds out her real identity and starts harassing her, and it keeps growing. He's stalking her, he's terrorizing her, demanding she give him more pictures and videos, or he'll tell everyone about her past. Asks if, they can make a video together, marry him, whatever. It keeps escalating. She eventually, though, she figures out who he is and turns the tables right back. And he, knowing that the cops are going to come, and in a perfect world that would, if you were really harassing someone, and thinks that it's almost over. He's like, well, then if I'm not going to jail. I'll just kill us both. We'll do a murder suicide. Starts going after her. She's trying to run away, and she's like trapped in a room, but she signs back on the way she escapes. She signs back onto her OnlyFans account, asking for whatever followers are still there to help her. Here's the name of the guy who's attacking me. God come quick. And her little army gets to work, hacks the hell out of him. He loses everything. He loses all his money. The cops are sent to her house, and she lives somewhat happily ever after, though now with everyone knowing that she used to do sex work, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's something there. I don't know.
His undoing is the one thing that he wanted was another video. There's something poetic there.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think so. Anyways, that's all I have. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Well, if there is nothing left to say about Grimm story number 55, Rumpelstiltskin, I think we can bring this to a close. Before we leave, though, Mike, is there a way for any of our adoring fans to reach us if they need to?
Absolutely. We can be reached at brothersdimpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Blue Sky at brothersdim, and on X at brothersdimpod.
Very good. Well, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Sleep tight, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.